It's Wednesday morning. Hound Dog is playing. It must mean it's time for Ask the Doc segment with Dr. Stone from Canyon Country Veterinary Hospital, located on Soledad next to Regal Cinema, 9 to 7 Monday through Friday, right? Right. And then also for your after-hours needs, or if you're on the west side of the valley, you have All Creatures Veterinary Center located on Lyons Avenue, just west of Main Street. And they are a 24/7 operation. So if Bow Wow gets a little upset tummy at 2 o'clock in the morning and it's not something that is easily curable, or let's say he got into the chicken grease or something like that, all those things that can happen. The hazards of the home, I think, are something that we need to kind of consider, right, Doctor? That some things we don't think that our pets would get into are things that they could get into and really get seriously ill.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we see that often.
And I know we've talked over the holidays about ribbon, like holiday ribbon, wrapping ribbon, and how that can actually cause bowel obstructions. And not to mention, even if it does kind of pass through, what our poor little pets do to try and finish the job, and it leaves quite the the Christmas decoration, as it were. But that sort of thing can cause some serious blockage, right?
Yeah, it can.
And when we talk about things, I talk about chicken grease. I think there was one time also that you told a kind of a sad story, unfortunately, about someone who had brought their dog, and it was kind of too late, but the dog got into, he either ate chicken bones or something like that. What was it that he got into?
It was grease from, I'm not sure where, but yeah, they gave, I don't know, the dog got into it must have been maybe like bacon grease or something like that.
And they don't always know. Yeah. You think, okay, dogs are smart enough to know when they've had their fill of this stuff, but they don't always. And that can cause. Now, what happened there? Was it what actually unfortunately caused the demise? Was it just an overeating? Was it a blockage, or?
When they eat really fatty or greasy foods, they can develop pancreatitis, which is inflammation of your pancreas. And if it's a very severe case of it, they can actually die from that without treatment.
Now, is this something that would have built up over time, or is it something, can they instantly eat like a bunch of, like, let's say they get into the can of bacon grease that grandma left on the stove and they got up and got on it. They're smart enough to get up there. Is that something that can happen relatively quickly, or is it something?
Yeah. I mean, if they do it, during the day, you'll start seeing signs within a few hours.
Oh, so it's not even something that, like, okay, I hit a little nip of bacon grease here over the years and it builds up. It's something that can happen instantly.
Yeah.
So chicken grease or that sort of thing, obviously stay away. And it's also like things getting into trash, and sometimes they'll eat the plastic trying to get to good stuff as well, right?
Yeah, and then those things can definitely cause obstructions in their intestines.
And when we talk about those intestinal obstructions, that is basically you're talking about a surgical procedure, right?
Right. Yeah. A lot of times dogs don't really realize, and they'll swallow things that, they don't know they can't pass, and it will get to a certain point in the intestines, and then it just can't move any further. And so it gets stuck, and without surgery pretty quickly, the bowel can actually rupture and open up, and then they can pass away very quick.
Now, is this thing too? Because sometimes there are dogs with who are aggressive chewers. I have beagles, and one of them has like an alligator trap jaw, and he tears things up. Unfortunately, I mean, we've had him long enough. We know he just spits it aside. But dogs who can chew things up and swallow, even if they've got aggressive chewing, to make sure to get something that they can't destroy, like nylabone or something like that.
Yeah.
But those are the things you kind of keep an eye out when they're puppies to see. And are there dogs that have stronger, are more susceptible to that? Like I would think something like maybe pit bulls, or who would be?
We definitely see it in younger dogs, because puppies seem to be a little more sillier and just pick things up in their mouth and swallow it. We see it often in labs. For some reason, they like to eat balls and rocks and things like that.
So make sure, just like children, that the toys are not something that they can either cause a choking or an obstruction hazard, right?
Right.
So it includes food and your toys, and if they could chew it up and eat it, then it could definitely be a problem. It doesn't always pass through, as they say, and those aren't big passageways, especially on the smaller dogs. That could cause a real problem. So that's good. So also making sure things like locking up your trash. And also, I want to talk really briefly about food. because if they get into their food, let's say you leave a bag, and I've had this happen where one of my dogs, you think it's a sealed bag, and one of them actually tore his way in. And fortunately, I guess he kind of knew when to stop, or maybe we caught him enough time, but they don't always know when to stop, right?
Right. Some just will continue to eat until we call it bloat. So their stomach just gets so bloated that they can have a lot of issues from it. You can start seeing vomiting, diarrhea, even deep-chested dogs, if they eat too much, their stomach could turn on itself, and that's a very dangerous
That just made my stomach turn on itself even just imagining it.
That's very dangerous.
We were talking with Dr. Stone. Ask the Doc segment. Dr. Stone, you can find her at Canyon Country Veterinary Hospital on Soledad Canyon next to the Regal Cinemas, Monday through Friday, 9 to 7. And also, for your pet needs on the west side of the valley or after-hours care is All Creatures Veterinary Center, which is a 24/7 pet hospital. We're going to have to take a break real quick and get to some traffic, and we'll be right back after this. Ask the Doc, the Dr. Stone from All Creatures. For actually Canyon Country Veterinary Hospital, located on Soledad next to Regal Cinemas, 9 to 7 Monday through Friday. For your after-hours care, or if you are on the west side of the valley, don't overlook All Creatures Veterinary Center, located on Lyons Avenue, 24/7 emergency clinic as well. They're on Lyons Avenue, just west of Main Street in the Victorian buildings. So in our previous segment, Dr. Stone, we were talking about things dogs shouldn't eat, but I want to talk about things that dogs should eat, such as food. But when we talk about, is there a problem when they eat too fast?
There can be, yeah. A lot of times when dogs just inhale the food and don't even chew it, sometimes they, will vomit. Sometimes they will get, we call it gastroenteritis, inflammation of the stomach and intestines because they're not actually chewing it. So it's good to see if they can slow down. There are a lot of bowls that you can actually find at the pet store that are designed to make them kind of, pick through the food, so that way they're not just inhaling them.
Just slowing it down a little bit.
Yeah.
And so really important also from that standpoint of keeping it kind of a regular diet too, so that they don't go too crazy. And also, I had a thought, and I was so intrigued in the gastroenteritis that I forgot what I was going to say. So I'm sure I'll have that follow-up question will come up at like 9:01. Oh no! But those are the things though when we talk about that sort of diet and not only what they shouldn't eat, but what they should eat, but how they eat and how much they should eat is very important. And again, just on following that, we talked earlier about when they get into the dog food and they don't know how much when to stop. Free feeding is never really a good idea for your dogs, right?
Right. I mean, some dogs will, there are some dogs that will just nibble at the food. Usually it's if it's a single dog and they know the food's not going anywhere. But usually if you're in a home with multiple dogs, they will just inhale it because they don't want the other dog to eat it. And then you come up with problems with being overweight and things like that.
And not to mention the possible awfulness of like territorial fights, because dogs are not. On another note, on fighting, do you have a way of what's the best way to break up? I mean, you might have seen that, in your, even in the lobbies. Sometimes dogs who think they're friendly are in a strange environment and they get crazy. Is there an easy way to break up dog fights or not?
If you're at home and you have like a hose or a bucket of water or something like that, that's always good to do. Because where I've seen a lot, people will try to get in the middle of it and then they actually get injured too. We've seen a lot of that where people kind of get their arms in there and then they get bit on accident, So if you have some sort of hose around, or water or keep the
spray bottle handy, right? That actually the water has seemed to work the best because our dogs are really good with each other, but just every now and then, just like people, sometimes they snipe.
Yeah.
They've been on their best behavior lately, but like when we brought Daisy in a couple months ago, and we had our other dog who was just bullying her there for just every now and then, and it was only around certain things, like around my wife, like he was suddenly really protective of her.
Yeah.
And the other thing we're able to do is kind of get him by the scruff and get him out of there.
Yeah.
And but if it's a big dog, if you have a Mastiff, you're not grabbing any scruff when you're a 150-pound dog.
I mean, that's your reaction is to grab them, but
yeah, and
you have to be
and you got to be
careful not to get
really, because
bit.
if you get in the way there, and unfortunately he, especially with me, I'm kind of the alpha in that, and that's the other thing too, is making sure that you assert do the research on the breed and assert your kind of quote unquote alphaness that they know that
Yeah,
you are in charge
from
and
the
not them.
beginning. Yeah.
And that's a whole other behavioral topic that we can get on. But I just wanted to kind of touch on that because it all kind of ties into behavior and how they do things. I want to talk. Give me a kitten update. You said that there's another kitten now. So how many kittens does that make it that you have up for adoption at the Canyon Country?
We have 2 kittens, and they're both black and white. We just got them in this week, so they're not up for adoption this week just yet because we're just monitoring them, making sure they're healthy and, getting their shots and everything and them deworming first. So we will have 2 kittens up for adoption coming up probably in a week or so.
Oh, outstanding.
They're little and cute.
So I think I'm going to stop by and take some pictures and post them up there because it's just an excuse for me to stop by and see them, but I might do that. Dr. Stone, thank you so much. Always a pleasure. Always very insightful. Don't forget, you can see her at Canyon Country Veterinary Hospital, Soledad Canyon next to the Regal Cinemas. And for your after-hours care, or if you're on the west side of the Santa Clarita Valley and want to go to All Creatures Veterinary Center, they are a 24/7 operation located on Lyons Avenue and the Victorian Building. I'm getting really good at that. Thank you so much. And we'll be back after this.